Here,
I'm gonna say,
David Neiman?
Jean Walker.
she doesn't have any. Evelyn Miller. I'll move next
Amy
to her.
Pollock?
Yeah, or I'll just say, okay.
Okay, first on the agenda is map 24, lot 57, New England Property Management application, and Irene Kozarski, owner, seeking a variance to perform the site work, removal and replacement of a retaining wall, regrading and removal of one tree within the inner 50 of the 100-foot wetland and surface water conservation district buffer. The concerned sections 13-3-5, use not permitted in the WSWC district of the Goffstown zoning ordinance. The property is located at 84 Lynchfield Park, zone residential. The recommendation is to be sent to the ZBA. So we have a presenter, or just, yeah, and state your name for the,
Daniel LeBlanc, New England Property Maintenance.
And Hunter Philbrick, New England Property Maintenance.
okay, you,
And I did look through all this.
you had the,
You go ahead and
you want a permission to go within the inner 50,
Yes.
okay, of the setback.
Yes, they have, all their wooden retaining walls are failing.
Mhm.
And what we want to do is go in and replace the existing walls to keep them from, because the bankings are high, and if they do fail, they can end up in the water. Because they're only like, I think it's like 10, 11 feet away from the shore. There is another retaining wall at the water. So what we would do is put up, silt screens, bales of hay, all that stuff to keep everything from going, nothing can go into the water from there. But if these walls do fail, there's a good chance those bankings will end up in the water. She's already had 2 concrete walls that failed, like, right after they signed on the house.
I'm here, I'm late, I'm sorry.
It's okay, it's okay. You wanna come over here?
Sure.
So
Our secretary.
all we're looking to do is replace the existing, and there's a tree that is causing water damage to, she's got a walkout cellar. And the tree is actually above, like about a foot above the height of the cellar door. So there's no way we can even, because it's like right dead center. So there's no way we could put a drain in there without killing the roots of the tree. And it's a pretty big tree, so if we did go through the roots, there's a good chance it could,
So you-
fall.
Probably the roots are what's holding everything in place right now.
Pretty
You-
much, yeah.
Yeah, so once that tree is down, no. You're also bringing fill in?
Yes. And we're gonna use 2,000-pound concrete blocks.
Mhm.
And the homeowner has no problem at putting more trees in the place of this one, just so we can bring the grade down to carry the water away from the house.
Okay, but you plan on doing quite a bit of grading?
No, not a lot, no.
You had a picture in here.
So, David?
Yeah, having looked it over, can I just make a statement to summarize and you correct anything I say that's wrong?
Absolutely.
To me, it sounds like you're simply replacing 2 failing walls,
Yes,
removing a large tree which is causing damage. You may have some other plantings.
yeah, in place of that.
So they're really, and during the construction, you're gonna take the appropriate measures to
Safety
block
and-
silt and
Yep.
all that. So in the final analysis, there's no change to impact on the banks of the river.
Right.
If anything, it's preventing
Improving,
damage.
yep.
But they are bringing fill in to raise it.
Well, what we wanna do is, there's 2 walls.
They're not just replacing the walls that there?
What it is
Moving
there's
them.
2 walls, and we wanna take both of them out and just put one. And then bring the fill to the height of the second wall, all the way across.
Instead of having it terraced, you're gonna
Yeah,
bring it up.
yeah, we're just gonna put one wall and then just fill that so that it's, a consistent grade.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either.
Amy?
No, so it's already under construction?
No, we did a walkway for them, and then, like I said, the other 2 walls collapsed on her.
Okay.
So we put those blocks in there to hold back the bank, cause that bank is 6 feet tall,
Okay.
and it was gonna fall right through her sliding glass doors, you know, so. It was kind of an emergency situation.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't been to the state yet, though, right?
The zoning board?
The state.
No.
DES.
Because I filled out a thing for the wetland permit.
Mhm.
And then I was talking to Nancy in the zoning board, and I spoke with, I forget his name. He's up in, no, let me see. I got his name here somewhere.
At the state level?
Yeah, he,
Carl Benedict?
no, I can't think of his name. You know, I had it right in my mind, and now that you asked me, let me find the email. But it went from him to someone else, and he's the shoreline guy.
Okay.
He's over in, New London, I think, somewhere around there. But I could only email him, you can't call, you have to email, so through the email, he wasn't sure whether we need a wetland permit or a shoreline permit.
I think we should probably take a look at this after you get to the state and see what they say, and then give us a second chance to look at it.
Yeah, if that's what you wanna do.
Yeah, that's what I wanna do.
May I ask why?
Just because there's gonna be a lot of filling and
But-
things like that.
But they're just, the walls are there now, there's already fill in the bank, they're replacing 2 walls with one and just having one
One consistent grade.
consistent grade. I don't see any environmental impact here. I could see that there would be an environmental impact if the walls aren't fixed and they fail and slump into the river. So I can't imagine why we wouldn't want to see this done if it's gonna protect future damage.
I actually agree with that. No, I do. I think he's just talking about this outer wall, making it larger and then
And filling it.
yeah. And it's just, so it's not going to affect the water anymore, and it's definitely going to prevent any
Right, any future
anything going
damage.
into, yeah. And the tree roots are just going to eat away at what they've got now, so, I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's actually good that they're going to be doing something.
Yeah, these guys bought the house unaware of all the issues of that. So we've been trying to work with them and with the zoning board to get this done for them, because, you know, it is kind of it's a bad situation as far as
So it
water
does
damage and
sound like you
stuff.
probably are gonna have to get a permit from
Yeah,
the
they have-
shore, I'm thinking
they have-
maybe shoreline rather
They
than
do have-
wetland.
Yeah, and he's the one that's not sure if we need one of those, or if we need the wetland.
I would think it would be shoreline.
I would think shoreline.
Yeah, cause you're
shoreline.
not going in
think
and
that's what
affecting the
Carlos had said.
wetlands at all, so I think,
No, there's no wetlands there at
I
all.
think that's what
That's it.
Carla said. They
Yeah.
needed a shoreline, and that after the it was just that he thought after they went to then we could take another look at it before. But that's up to everybody.
I have a feeling he's saying that because he wants to see how it's being constructed,
I-
but I think it's
could
gonna
be.
be approved through the state, the way that it's gonna be constructed. Anyway. That will come to, so you've gotta fill out an application, I
For
think.
wetland?
No,
Shoreline.
Shoreline.
I think I already did.
It's right here.
And, I would think we could send a memo to the shoreline section agency that we don't have any areas of concern. And then, there probably will be something about how it's being constructed, and that's the concern. But do they do that? Do they look at the engineering of that?
I would think so.
So then whether they,
And that's all in that paperwork too, the engineering of the wall. We actually have the company that makes the block engineer the wall
Just
for
right
us.
here.
I don't like to say we have no concerns in something like this. I think we do have concerns that it is properly constructed and put it in a positive.
With concerns.
Yeah, our concerns is that is going to be done properly and according to all
Shoreline.
protection rules and regulations and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, that's what the state inspection process is.
Right,
looking at
but
that.
I mean, to say
Don't
that
say we don't have concerns.
concerns, that's
Well-
right. I mean, I
I understand what you're saying.
mean, our concern is that it's done
Done
properly.
Right.
Right, and certainly we should put that in our statement. I mean, I'll go ahead and make a recommendation. I recommend, I make a motion that we recommend to the ZBA that the variance be granted conditional upon the, project being performed according to the specification and review by
Shoreline.
the state shoreline, which they have to do anyway, and that proper precautions during construction are followed, you know, regarding best practices regarding silt erosion and things like that. And that we make this recommendation because we believe in the long term it's going to prevent damage, which would do damage to the resources of the lake. And, you know, it's necessary work that needs to be done, so.
Okay, what about replacing some trees if they're taking out one? Something.
I don't see why that's necessarily a
Okay.
requirement. I mean, because the tree roots can do damage to the wall
Mhm.
as well, and that's kind of the problem they're having now if the tree gets too big. So it depends on to just say that without going into specifics isn't necessarily right.
I imagine if they're gonna do all this work to the wall, they're gonna do some little landscaping around there anyway.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very well said. Second. Is that
Those in
it?
favor?
David? Anything else?
You second, all those
I
in favor?
second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstaining? Okay.
So you have to get that application in,
Okay, I will.
and then they'll notify us, and then that's supposed to go to the ZBA, I believe, is that
Yeah,
right?
ZBA, yeah.
This
Good.
was to the ZBA, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a meeting with them next Tuesday, I believe.
Great.
They want us to know your recommendation first, which is
Oh. Oh, so
understandable.
this goes to ZBA, okay.
Yep.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. Okay, we have the Public Service Company, Eversource Energy easement on seeking a conditional use permit for proposal to replace overhead electric utility structures, 138 located on map 5, lot 14, property owner, town of Goffstown, along existing Q 171, 115 kV distribution transmission line as part of the Eversource rebuild project and is located within the Wetland Surface Water Conservation Overlay District. The planning board may grant a conditional use permit as per section 13.3 and 13.3 and 7.1 of Goffstown zoning ordinance to allow the impact to occur within the Wetland Surface Water Conservation District. The Q171 distribution line is partly located in the Goffstown along Elm Street and is located within the Agricultural Residential Zone 1 District and Wetland Surface Water Conservation WSWC Overlay District. A recommendation is to be made to the planning board. State your name and
I'm Chris Wilkes. I work for VHB, representing Eversource with environmental permitting.
Jeremy Fennell, licensing and permitting for Eversource.
So, yeah, what you guys have in front of you is it's a routine maintenance project. Eversource has gone out on the Q171 line. It's existing established right-of-way. It has identified structure 138, which is subject to the application as deficient. Currently it's a standard 3 wood pole structure. often these wood structures are 50-plus years old, they're weathered, they have internal rot, woodpecker damage, and so on. So that's been identified at this location, and Eversource is looking to replace the pole. We replaced adjacent to the existing location with weathered steel poles. And in order to access the structure, they're gonna come off of a little parking lot right off of Elm Street there, just down the hill from the Glen Lake School. And they need to cross an existing wetland and stream that intersects the right-of-way. So they're gonna use standard best management practices to do the work, which involves installation of timber matting at the wetland and stream crossings to prevent rutting, erosion, and sedimentation. They'll put the matting in, crews will get out to the structure, they build sort of a work pad around the structure, which is that square box. It's about approximately 100 by 100 foot area, and it gives the crews enough room to kind of stage equipment and replace the pole. So they'll get out there, they'll build that pad, which is partially gonna be built with, it's all gonna be timber mats. A portion of that pad intersects the wetland. As you can see, it's the yellow hatching. The purple is all an upland area. So they'll build the pad, they'll replace the structure, and then they'll work themselves out of there following the same access they came in, pulling the mats out, restoring the ground surface as needed through application of straw mulch and seed if it's required. The work is planned for this winter. In the next month or so, it's planned to start. So although we're in a warm spell right now, hopefully we get a little bit colder temperatures, and we can, frozen ground conditions may help mitigate some of the disturbance. And the work is probably anticipated to take no more than a month or
Yeah,
so.
less than that,
Less
couple
than
weeks.
a couple of weeks, all in all.
While it's still cold.
Well, it's not gonna stay cold, I mean,
Yeah, right, it's been
Depends
a
on the
weird
day.
winter.
Yeah.
I just raked my flower beds today.
Oh,
I couldn't
no.
believe it. It was just
I believe it.
So actually, and it looks like you have a lot of steepness of slope right above
Yeah.
that area?
Yep, so that's a steep slope up to the school. We're gonna stay out of that slope, run along the base of it, the access road there, as you can see, and then it kind of turns into the structure.
So- I guess what I'm thinking though is that you probably are gonna have early mud season.
Yep, that's definitely a possibility here. That's sort of the reason why we're sort of proposing, the matting to help with that mud rutting kind of potential mess that could be created. The machinery is sort of track machinery. It's utilized to kind of create as least ground disturbance as possible, but hopefully with the matting that's deployed there,
Mid-season.
that'll kind of take care of it. And if there's any ground disturbance or exposed soil, again, that's created, crews do a pretty good job restoring that surface with straw mulch, so it kind of prevents any erosion or sedimentation and seed. I mean, we will be entering into the growing season. Often these areas, they come back very quickly within the right-of-ways. The root systems stay relatively intact from work like this, and I would imagine that come July, probably never know anyone was out there. Just the vegetation comes back that quick.
What I'm just saying is I would anticipate that you're going to have mud season.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
So you wanna make sure that you have your, all your materials
Oh, yeah.
there, cause you're definitely gonna.
Yeah, we're applying, we apply for a statutory permit by notification through DES, through the Wetlands Department. So when we file that notification, we're bound to follow the best management practice manual for utility maintenance, and so we're gonna have erosion controls out there, whether it's silt fence or straw wattle, and contain the work areas, and that's bound by the state regulations as well.
Did anybody see any?
Is it being replaced in kind with the same height, structure, et cetera? I don't see details on that anywhere. in
So
this.
it'll probably be about 10 feet higher than what is existing, just because the electrical standards have changed since it was installed.
Mhm.
And that's pretty standard with the other structures we've installed in the town
Okay.
last 2 or 3 years.
Is VHB responsible for doing like the oversight to make sure the pads are put down if needed, et cetera? Is that-
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
is that
we'll be-
Eversource?
We will be doing, we're typically continue through construction to do environmental monitoring,
Okay.
to go out, visit the site weekly, ensure that the contractor is following best management practice, the timber mat's being laid out and according to the project plans, and that erosion controls are going in, and that there's no issues.
Okay.
So we do plan on being present while the work is done.
We've had another little issue in town in the past with a pole replacement
Right.
and it was like slipped through, like basically construction went without oversight, so we just don't want that to happen again.
Which one was that? Do you remember?
Over off of,
It's on Yakum
Yakum
Hill.
Hill.
yeah,
Yakum Hill?
Yeah, come here.
It was quite a restoration project that Eversource in the end came through and did a great job on the restoration, but
we don't wanna have
it
to
was
get
an
to
awful bill
restoration.
for them.
Right.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
a lot of work they had to do.
Yeah, and just because it is warming up so much, like
Yeah.
most likely, you're
It's gonna be
probably
all
gonna
really
have.
soft.
But fortunately, the site doesn't begin to compare with the steepness and the.
Yeah,
Of the Yakum.
but I just wanted to put that on record, where I'm coming from with my
Definitely.
questions,
Sure.
just 'cause history,
Yep.
that's all.
So, and just so you know, even though the topography does go up towards the school, because this is fairly near the wetland, actually partially in the wetland, it's flat, so we really should not need to do much grading, if anything, right there. And also, Roy from our Siting Construction Services, he's gonna talk to DPW and see if we can use this parking lot to park our equipment, just so we're minimizing the amount of time we're off on the
So,
the off right-of-way portion of but that's, obviously, that's up to DPW, and if we're gonna be, getting in the way of any kind of, event, I wouldn't think there'd be any events in March in this parking lot, but
No.
we'll just talk to them.
David?
So from looking at the plan, the access road that you're following, that's currently an existing.
Yeah, that's why we're not
Using
coming in
that.
directly, that's actually an existing opening, so we won't impact the wetland in an area that there isn't a current opening. They used that for an adjacent structure a couple years back.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it crosses that wetland at a narrow point there and the stream perpendicular, so it's kind of the best place to go. And the idea there would be when they lay the mats, that they'll be able to span the stream channel so the flow is not impeded by the mats at all. We'll kind of build a temporary bridge with mats over that stream. So that is the plan.
and although it's not really relevant to this plan, just curious, are the other poles, 136, 137, 139 in good shape, or do we have to be addressing them soon as well?
We don't have current plans to address them.
And you've done a lot of polls over the last couple of years. so
We
just
have
wanted to ask.
come to the Conservation Commission, Planning Board, and Zoning
You're-
Board many times.
You're regulars.
So, yeah, I mean, like, as I've said before, it's just the way we, do our inspections, and, we're constantly looking at these poles, and, what we're finding in some areas is that we're fixing some poles, and, we're seeing deficiencies in others. And obviously, we hit the ones that were most dire, and now we're kind of coming back. Some of these angle structures, dead ends, they have a lot of tension on them, so we really try to focus on them, because, unless they're in tip-top shape, they just, again, have a lot of tension. So,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I'm not aware that we're gonna come back to this particular stretch of right-of-way this year. Next year's a different story.
Okay, anybody have anything else? I want to make a motion on this one.
well, I know this sounds ridiculous, but that is a parking lot that Conservation had put in. We, put in that park, and so I just want to
For
make
boats.
sure that if you're using that, if there's any damage at all done, you will, I don't know, cause a rut or take out a curb or something. I don't think there is. I don't even remember how that's constructed there. Is it just?
I don't think it's
asphalt
curved.
No, it's
or is
not.
it-
Yeah,
Is it just a
Yeah, and I think-
nip pack?
Just do that through DPW, I would
Okay.
think.
All right.
Yeah, usually it's pretty standard. If we damage something, we fix it.
Take
And
it.
Somebody,
obviously, this is
somebody was
highly
parked there
utilized.
earlier this winter too, I think.
Yeah.
Some of the trucks were there earlier, maybe?
Close by. I know we have work on the same road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Somebody,
Sure,
everyone made a motion?
just to approve this project.
Yes, to approve.
Well, we don't approve it, do we?
Oh, well, recommend
says
that we
recommend.
approved it.
Recommend.
So a motion was made?
Yep, that
Yeah.
was it.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Map 3, lots, okay, 47-1, 47-2, 47-3, 47-4, 47-6, 47-7, 47-8, 47-9, and 47-10. Site plan review for a proposal to add commercial ground mount solar arrays to the Informal referred lots. The property is located off of Shirley Hill Road and Route 114, property owned by Gentle Slopes Land Development LLC and James McCullen. Applicants, GSSG New Hampshire LLC, located off Shirley Hill Road, Zone Commercial Industrial Flex Zone. Comment is to be forwarded to the planning board. Yes.
Hello,
State your name and,
I'm Michael Redding, and this is Clark Hunter,
okay.
representing GSSG New Hampshire. Well, glad to be in front of you,
Yeah,
because this means that our project is real. We're very excited about this project. We're excited to bring renewable energy to New Hampshire and specifically to Goffstown.
Is this the first project in the state, or do you have you?
No, not the state,
Okay.
no, but I believe in Goffstown for sure, right?
yeah, definitely.
As far as a large commercial goes.
Correct, yeah.
Right, you've described the land, where it's located. If you're familiar with this section, Hebert's Auto Salvage is right here. We're kind of bunkered back in the woods. You can see us a little bit when you travel along 114, but we're up a slope, so it's very hard to see. Where you really can kind of get a sense of it is when the lines for the distribution corridor cross 114. You kind of have a perspective right away of where we're going to be. We're going to be set quite back far, so it won't be seen very easily from the road, but the thing that, like I said, the thing that we're excited about is that we've got this project here proposed. It's approximately 2 megawatts of AC power that will go off to the New Hampshire grid. We're proposing a fixed tilt solar panel modular system. So fixed tilt versus trackers. Fixed tilt is just facing south. It stays in that direction versus the tracker, which will follow the sun from an east to west manner. Ours will stay facing south, fixed. They're approximately spaced about 17 feet apart, and that we're going to be maintaining a meadow-like grass cover beneath the solar array. So once the land is cleared, some of the stumps are removed, some of the areas are already cleared, we're essentially going to create kind of farmer's field, if you will, like we see for haying, very similar to that, where it grows up tall, and then about twice a year we come in. When it gets to about 14 inches tall, we'll come and take it down. And again, in addition to the panels, we'll also have a lot of the supportive functions, which will include all the electrical equipment. There'll be a transformer box that'll be located in two locations located near these panels. And then there'll be a series of poles, underground wires, as well as overhead wires. And then we'll have the typical gravel main access road that you can see portrayed here that kind of comes off of Shirley Hill Road and towards the project. There'll be 2 utility drives that'll come off of this gravel road. And then there'll be a vast amount of stormwater conveyance controls and treatment mechanisms that we'll have here. And then finally, there'll be fencing. Wetlands were delineated as part of the project, as part of our existing conditions. They're mostly located to the west and to the east. And I've highlighted them green so that you guys can see where it's located. We do have one perched wetland that kind of sits right at the top of the hill. It's kind of a depression up there.
Yeah, what's the area of that wetland?
The area of that wetland. Good question.
Okay, so that is, what was your question? David, what was your question?
The area of
Saving this, can I
the
just-
wetland.
so this actually goes
Wait, wait, take it back.
attached to this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so kind of just. There you
Is that 6,500 square feet?
Yes, did you say?
50 times 50?
5,500?
7,500 square feet, something like that? This here is what you asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So here's the locations. You can see this line represents the limits. The wetland goes towards the west over here. We've got this one small perched area here. And then we believe that there is a hydraulic connection here, though it wasn't very evident in the field. But there may be under certain very wet seasons where you may get some flooding in this area. But for the most part, there's another section of wetland that runs down here all the way to 114.
Yeah.
Excuse me, 114, and then,
Junkyard.
you know, through topography, it kind of finds its way. We are proposing developmental impacts associated with the gravel road. It's a 4,700 square foot impact that will essentially accommodate a culvert, and then this gravel road fill. This, we've already seeked DES's permits, as well as the Army Corps permits. You received a copy of that and had the opportunity to comment on it. And so we've moved forward with that permit. There will be no other direct impacts to wetlands as part of this project. We were very cognizant of that as we tried to make the most of this land without it being, you know, it's a renewable energy project, so we want to be as environmentally friendly as we possibly can. That's our whole purpose here. So, you know, finding the right location for this array was a challenge, but, you know, we want to try to limit it to less steep slopes, flatter areas. We want to try to stay away from the wetlands as much as we can, and we want to try to limit our clearing that is adjacent to wetlands as much as we can. And so we've done that. You know, we're down at the southern end of this property. Again, north is up here, here's Shirley Hill Road. And the land rises, and there's a relatively flat area up here that's kind of mixed with regards to hardwoods and evergreens, evergreens. And so we found this to be the best location. We will be coming in adjacent to wetlands, mostly for this gravel access road. And what we've done here is we've used the grading as well as stormwater controls. We'll have both a conveyance swale as well as a permanent sediment basin located in this vicinity here to capture any sort of sediment that might come off of this gravel road. Now, keep in mind, you know, with our projects, after construction, there's really not many visitors. Basically, it's a set it and forget it kind of project. You know, no moving parts, so it just makes us some nice, real renewable energy. And so we'll only need to go out here maybe 4 times a year at the most. You know, 2 times to do the mowing, and then maybe there's a maintenance schedule in there just to check on some of the electronics. And then if we need to go out, you know, for the winter time for some reason, just to check if we get a really crazy heavy winter, it'd be nice if we got one once in a while, right? Doesn't seem like we get those anymore. You know, where it builds up at the bottom of the panel, and then you see it on the roofs, right? It slides, it gets stuck, and then it
Backs at
creeps
the
up the
bottom.
panel. Panels are much more sophisticated now, where they can still make electricity even though they're partially covered. You know, I don't know how long ago that changed. Was it like the 90s or something like that?
Oh, no, it's
Pretty
much
recent?
more recent than
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
The array, not the individual panel.
Right.
Right.
The
How-
array
And
can
the
keep
array can.
producing because the panels are controlled independently, but the
Right.
panels on the bottom, if the snow's on them, you're gonna lose production on them. So you have 36-inch minimum in your specs. Is that gonna be typical, or is that just the minimum, or some of them gonna be perhaps a bit higher than
That's
36?
what I'm saying, 36 inches from the ground, is that what they're saying?
Yeah, because I have a ground.
Bottom edge.
I have a ground mount in Goffstown, and
Yep.
I can tell you 36 inches, I have to shovel frequently.
Yeah, right.
And not so much this year,
Right.
Right,
but,
right.
you know, I've had it for 5 years now, and most winters, the 36 inches isn't quite enough.
Yeah, at this point, we're planning for something like that, depending on the topography, we'll have to make adjustments. So it's because it's a fixed, array, we'll have the posts embedded in the ground, and we can only allow so much kind of tilt and sway as we move across, so, we'll have our minimum being 36 as we if we have to dip down and then make it back up to kind of bridge across something. But, we'll probably be closer to, 40 inches probably as an average.
And how many rows in each array is it? How many rows of panels going up?
You can see them right here.
Is it, what's the
No,
layout?
okay, so for a single individual row,
Sure, how many strings, is that you're asking?
how many rows of panels in the stack? Is it
Oh, it's a portrait,
one-
two portrait,
two portraits?
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
and then there's 54 total, so it's a 27 across,
right.
before you get to the next string, and
Well,
then,
that's why I was asking, because if you did get snow on the lower one, and you took out the lower panels, and they're only too high, that's a huge impact.
and that's why we'll be out there. This is not something that we'll take lightly, this is a very important facility to us, so if we do need to get out there to maintain the snow, it will be maintained for certain, there's no doubt about it.
Well, you said you have some elsewhere?
Yeah, throughout the state. We've got projects in Hillsborough, Milton.
So you've had snow build up,
Oh, yeah.
and,
It's not something which is unusual. These are all managed and monitored remotely, so that as we start to see power production begin to go down, that's when we send the people out.
Yeah. What angle are your panels gonna be set at?
What are these set at, about 26,
I think it's 25 degrees.
25
yeah.
degrees?
So the perched wetland that you mentioned earlier, so what's the current conditions on the site now? Is it currently wooded, or?
In that area, it's mixed. I don't know if you can see it, but it's almost like the trees are on the edges of it, and there's an opening down the middle.
And is there any indications, has anybody looked at this before, to see if it's a vernal pool?
We did, yes, and it did not determine to be a vernal pool.
Is there a wetland scientist report on that or something?
Yes, yep. Yeah, it's an odd spot, it doesn't typically line up with, vernal pools. Typically, they're much lower, not on these steep slopes like they are here, so, it really doesn't lend itself to be that, supportive, with regards to habitat, fortunately. Something like down here, in this area, would be a classic example, in my opinion, of a good vernal pool area, but we've stayed pretty far away from that. But no, there were no reports of vernal pool within our proposed development area, or really within our project area. Like I said, we are proposing some direct impacts here. Everything else, we are looking to try to provide some sort of, minimization and/or treatment mechanism, either through stormwater controls or sediment controls. We talked a little bit about the swale and the sediment basin here. Let me explain a little bit about some of these drives. So Eversource requires us to provide a gravel access drive to where their pole system is going to be, and then from there they connect out to where their grid is. Right now, we're showing 2 locations, but we're only gonna choose one. We're still working through what is best for them. This one is not their preferred path, but it is an option. because there is an existing building here that already has the 3-phase to it. So we can come up from the hill here, except it's not their preferred and it's certainly not our preferred, because we would have to construct this gravel road, and obviously it creates more impact and more cost for us. If we do have to do that, we want to protect this wetland. What we've engineered is a super elevated road, so it's a road that's pitched all in one direction. It'll pitch away from the wetland to a grass-lined swale, and then there will also be a 2-foot grass berm that will separate the top of the road from the wetland. So there'll be no chance that any sort of sediment can get in there. Hopefully, we don't even have to get to that. We really feel confident that it's not gonna be the case, but we wanted to at least put that in front of you in case that ends up being kind of a fail-safe solution. We feel fairly confident with this proposal. And what we've done here is exactly the same. We've super elevated this gravel drive. There is a detention basin going in here that will outlet in this direction over here. So again, we're sending it away from the wetland. We're giving it a lot of upland for it to be reabsorbed, and all of that stormwater to be treated before it works its way back into that resource.
So I'm actually not, I mean, just driving by, haven't walked any of this, but along 114, there is, I think the highway is probably built up, and then there is a lot of wetland right along 114, isn't there? So this is, I'm assuming that it's all washing off of the mountainside here, or the hillside. And are you saying most of it is being directed to that one area on the right that is then going to, because I think you've got a lot of wetland vegetation and stuff down by the road.
By the road you do.
Right, so 114 is down here. And so you can see the mapped wetland that runs right along.
Okay, it's hard for me, and I'm sorry,
Yeah,
it's
this
just
is
hard
very
to tell.
small.
Here,
Yeah,
here.
I
And you
can't
know what
tell
it is,
from
that we
this.
didn't have the big
Yeah.
so,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
So this is it right here, okay.
Right there.
So it's not, you're not cutting off its source of, right, okay.
Exactly, right, and like I said, it's not very clear, the wetland scientists couldn't find a conclusive evidence of the hydraulic connectivity between these two. They ended the last flag here and the last flag here. There seems to be some sort of ridge. It may be a hydraulic divide. It seems like part of this development might have affected that a long time ago. So we see this as maybe being a separate, but maybe under extreme flooding conditions, maybe those two connect. Regardless, we absolutely want to make sure that this wetland here can connect to this wetland hydraulically. We are providing a 24-inch reinforced concrete pipe to be able to do that, and that will allow for 90% of the flow under a 50-year storm to occur. So there'll be a slight bit of pooling that'll occur on this side during those storm events, which is all good for a wetland. That's what it likes, and it will still be able to receive all the water on the east side of that gravel road.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions to Karen?
Maintenance of swale.
Right, so maintenance of all stormwater projects will be part of a operation and maintenance plan that we've submitted both to DPW as well as to the alteration of terrain. It will include at least, I guess it'd be a biannual, twice-a-year event where we go out and inspect, and if there's sedimentation that needs to be removed, it will be removed promptly.
By whom?
By GSSG New Hampshire.
But,
Not DPW.
right, but that's something, again, that in other big projects, we've had a report given to DPW to make sure that
Oh,
they.
report given, but I just wanted to make sure DPW was not gonna get out there
Maintain
and
Yeah, no.
maintain the swales.
Right, so if I could just expand upon that, so this was part of an old subdivision plan, you can kind of see that there was a right-of-way established. We are establishing a gravel drive, and so that will be a private drive, all of that will be on the maintenance of the entity here, and there'll be no cost to the town.
Any other comments or concerns? Okay, do you want to make a motion to send it on to the planning board?
I move that we send the plan on to the planning board.
Did we-
No, just
Just send it
Send
the
it
way
on.
it is. Anyone want to second that?
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Abstaining?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any corrections and exceptions to the minutes?
I abstain.
I abstain. I wasn't here.
We can't vote on it then. We've only got 3 people.
You can vote, it just, the abstentions don't take away from the quorum.
Oh, so we can,
Yeah, you can still do that.
okay, just, vote and accept the minutes, somebody,
I move to accept the minutes. David, are you still looking at them?
Yeah, I realized I looked at all the plans, but forgot to read the minutes. So. Just making sure I didn't say anything crazy.
you didn't, I read it.
Oh, I probably did, but,
You thought,
but I'm hoping it wasn't.
you were
picked
fine.
up.
Okay, David, second, in favor? 3 of
Oh.
us, and opposed?
Aye.
Okay, and abstaining would be Amy.
I did the aye,
She
with
did-
the,
You did the motion,
Yes,
right?
she
Yeah,
did.
right.
And then Amy and Karen are both
Okay.
abstaining. Okay,
so they are approved?
they get approved.
Okay.
And now, we have to, can we approve somebody for a committee with, oh yeah, they can vote on
Yes,
that
for
one.
the open space.
Okay,
committee.
we have a volunteer request for Charlie Burdette to serve on the Open Space Committee. We just need a motion to accept him.
I'd make a motion that we accept Charlie on the committee, and
Second?
Those in favor?
Is this the
Aye.
one, is this the
Opposed?
fellow that came in before?
No.
yeah, and
He's the-
has a lot of enthusiasm and energy. We held an
He
open
does.
space committee meeting last week, and he's jumping right in, and this is
I
great.
think he's gonna be
I think he's gonna be
pretty
great.
good.
He looked very enthusiastic, which is wonderful.
David's
It
got him,
really
David's
is.
got him roped in already. We have one more plan review for map 9 lots 93, 94, and 94-1. Proposed lot line adjustment between the 3 properties.
Oh, this,
The
okay.
properties are located at East Dunbarton Road, owned by Henry and Clara Brady, Recreation Trust, and Thomas Brady, Zone Agricultural.
Whoa,
We have
is that all
small ones.
wetland? Is that what?
That's it.
So,
This is all?
I was a little confused by this, cause
I was,
we've had stuff before on this property for lot line adjustment. How is this different from what we've seen before? What's
Right,
what's
right.
we
happening?
did it about a year or 2 ago?
Yeah.
I
On this
was
property?
hoping,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not the first time we've seen whether it was actually done or not.
Right.
You know, whether those were conceptual, I don't know, but they've been here before.
It has been here
There's
before.
nobody here now to explain it,
No,
which is
and
not
it looks inside
helpful.
out.
So I can tell you what this is.
Okay, can you,
Okay.
So this is the former property of Henry
Henry
and Claire
Brady's, yeah.
Grady. It's in their
Right.
estate. And I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, Cynthia Bover she's the surveyor for this project. She came into the planning board and said that, well, let me back up. They went to the selectmen several months ago, maybe that's what you're thinking
Yeah, it was
about.
No, they've been to conservation.
they've been
Maybe
here too.
they came here as
They've been
well.
here.
Yeah.
And they asked for a merger, I believe. I wasn't involved, I wasn't here at that time. But that was, that was approved. And recently, they submitted a boundary plan, boundary agreement plan to the assessor. And he took a look at it and said, well, I think this needs to go to the planning board. I think this actually needs a lot line adjustment versus just a boundary plan, because the boundary plan doesn't go to the planning board or the town. They just, the parties agree, they sign off on it, and then it gets
Okay,
recorded.
so what they had before was a boundary.
That must
plan.
have been what you saw.
Must have been. When they-
So,
'cause it was right after the parents had passed away.
okay.
I think when they had come in, when they were,
That was the first time.
that's, I mean, the
Mhm.
first, yeah, it's
There's
been,
been more than one
Right.
time, and,
they've been splitting it up.
yeah, originally we started out with one lot, did we not?
I don't know, I wasn't
Yeah.
here.
Now,
So
now
now
we're
they're just,
looking at a proposed,
These lots are all lots of record. However,
They are lots of record. Which
However,
ones are lots
it's
of
old,
record?
old.
The-
Right.
the line, especially on 93, the line has changed. So if you see towards the roadway, it says original lot 93.
Mm-hmm.
It was much smaller. It was only 1.7 acres. Whereas this plan is changing that to 7 acres.
Oh, so I see, okay, so then they're planning on,
They're enlarging this lot because there's a house there and one member of the family actually lives there. So they're enlarging the lot for him. This strip of lot 94-1,
Mhm.
I believe, is on the market for sale.
This isn't drawn right.
And then the other lot is 94. So
94.
the planning board,
What's this here, lot 90?
The lot, the proposed 93 lot should be off of Grady Hill Road.
no, these are on East Dunbarton
The
Road.
East
I know, but it doesn't, this is not representing what's there on the ground. I mean, unless I can't see from the windshield,
This is not where Henry Grady's house was. This is a different
this is
parcel.
Tom
I think his
Grady.
name, yeah, Tom.
Yeah. But,
So they're going back to the planning board. The planning board said, no, we want you to do a lot line adjustment.
Rather than the boundary.
So they're going back tomorrow night for the lot line adjustment.
Okay, so I understood when you explained the original lot 93, I see the lines for that, and I see the new boundary line. So, that part I understand,
And then on lot 94-1,
yeah.
if you look where it
What's-
says lot lines to be abandoned,
Is that the old lot line for
that's
94?
the old lot line.
Lot line to be
And
abandoned
then
right
that
here.
section that was above 94.1,
That's
Was that
actually 95, you mean?
no, the abandoned part is going into
so
94
there's
one.
old lot lines, and there's this whole area, what was that part of? Was that their property? If that was 94,
The way it was explained to the planning board
would
was
be
that
95?
there were several places where the land overlapped in the old
Surveying,
town records.
Records, which is
And
common.
the deeds didn't match, so the family got together and decided on this boundary agreement, which everyone signed off on and said, okay, we're going to say, this is how we want it.
Including the owners of lot 95?
No, so 95 have actually
I see.
been
It's
removed
because
because that's a
old days
separate
is
owner
This one up
and
here.
his property is
Right.
no longer
But
included.
here's what's got me confused. So here's an old lot line to be abandoned, right here,
Yeah.
right? We've got this whole chunk of land that's now within this new lot line, so where did that come from?
I think it came from 94.
So 94 had a long sliver hanging out like that?
I can't tell you for sure, I don't know.
That's the part that just is very confusing.
But they had a surveyor, correct?
Why
Yes,
are
the surveyor did this plan.
Why is this being, why is 94, this is giving, is this a 94, was 94 a lot originally?
Yes, it was 11.53 and they're reducing it to 11. And it always had that same frontage there where you would have to cross the wetlands in order to get up to the larger buildable area. So they're not creating that issue.
So-
Okay.
So actually, all three of these lots belong to the same family at one time.
At one time.
And now they're trying to go
Yep.
by the
So-
old deeds to kind of,
Henry, is that his name? Henry?
Henry
He'll
And-
continue to own 93.
and Susan.
94-1 is for sale. And I'm not sure what they're planning to do
Okay,
with
they
94.
want to make this one a
No,
little larger,
93,
correct?
93 has to
Yes.
be Tom Grady.
Oh, Tom Grady, okay. So
And
Tom-
then 94 is
They
for
want to make
sale.
this bigger.
94 is for sale and 94-1 is
Took a
for
little bit
sale.
out of this one, yeah, they took
Yeah.
something out of this. Did that give them 2 acres after they moved that? No.
They gave him 7 acres.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
they did the lot line
Yeah.
adjustment? Okay. I see what they did.
They moved it quite a bit.
Quite a bit, yeah. Oh, because it was right here. It was little.
Right.
And then they took this. But you couldn't build on anyways, because look at the red up here.
Well, I know,
It's
except
there.
for that, actually, the house
Is
is
the only thing you received is that plan?
Yeah, we
Yes.
didn't get anything.
That's it,
Fiber
no-
like
One
loss.
sheet.
94.
there's a whole
How are they gonna build on that?
letter that goes
Well-
with it.
But it's for sale. Who's gonna buy
Right
it?
in here,
That's what she said. No, here, 94, this one right here.
Yeah,
So they, this is,
what about this 90?
that's for sale also.
that one's for sale, and that one actually is buildable. It's
Right.
this
Oh,
one
she didn't
here
think
that-
they're not gonna build on that one, are they? Both 94s
said
are
they're
for sale?
selling
For
it.
sale.
Oh, goodness.
But this one here.
That
They
one
built-
is
What's here?
that
they don't own
way
that.
now, they're not, they haven't changed anything
But
with
that's
it.
it, they didn't change this at all. This
Well,
is an
it does
existing.
say original 11, propose is 11.53, so they're growing it by half an acre.
But I'm talking about the frontage portion.
The frontage,
Yeah.
okay.
They're trying to clean up.
It's not
all-
here.
This will help.
The
people get-
surveyor
I'm sorry to say
submitted a
this, but they
report.
should have had somebody here presenting this.
Yeah, this,
I don't
like,
know,
what
I
do
don't
we,
think Patty asked them to come.
I don't know what
Probably
we're supposed to
not.
approve.
I don't think she did, because they would have said something to me,
Yeah,
cause they're coming in tomorrow night. I think she thought it was just
a simple
a
lot
simple
line
lot.
of,
Exactly.
I guess if we're forecasting that these are for sale, people will be coming in and wanting to.
right, that's probably what Patty was thinking also, that
Okay.
because if these are for sale, before they can do anything, they have to come to see us.
Right.
Why is that? It's not a subdivision.
The only thing is we don't wanna create a lot
That's
that.
gonna be a
And then
mess.
they come for variance, they say, well,
Right,
we bought
that
this,
kind
we
of-
have to
but-
build
but
it.
we're really
But
not,
once the
is
lot-
that correct?
Once the lot lines are adjusted, and somebody buys this lot and wants to put a house on it,
That's a house lot.
why is it gonna come to us? Because they're just gonna go get a building permit, unless there's seeking a variance into a buffer or something like that. Nothing's being subdivided, it's not gonna come to us.
Right, that's right.
How would they build
So-
on 94 without getting? it's
So
all
this
wet.
is the opportunity
Well, that's
Right.
To
true,
weigh
they
in
would need a
on-
Well, that's it.
wetland crossing.
on what's happening, not down the
Right,
road. We'll have
right.
no chance down the
And,
road.
and the question is, the question is not lot 94, but that's what I was asking, was there any change to that lot?
Oh, any change to lot number 94?
There may have been in the back, but not along the roadway as you enter. I can go get my folder if you wanna wait a few minutes.
You see what I'm saying, David?
Mm-hmm. Let me just get my.
I understand what you're saying, we never wanna create
Create
a
a
lot
lot.
that is,
Un-
yeah, but
that's a
this one
problem.
actually was already that
That
area
was already there, she said.
there, and they've just
They added this
Yeah.
little, they just
Well,
cleaned this lot
given
line.
where the house is, to be able to put something in that actually pretty tiny upland area in the scheme of the whole lot,
Right, yeah.
94,
Yeah,
would require wetland impacts. So
Right.
right.
that isn't increasing. That's as bad
You
now
might
as it
not
was
have to do it
before.
all.
right,
So I don't think you have to go down there.
Don't
John.
right.
No.
Which
No,
I think
no.
is too bad, this was all chopped up this way
A long time
originally.
ago.
But, and I think honestly, if it came in originally, like that, we would not,
No,
I don't think we would
If-
have approved that.
If you look down at the bottom, it shows you the owners for each of those lots. So Tom Grady only owns the one, and the trust owns the other two.
Right.
oh, okay. See, lots were always chopped up crazy,
Mhm.
right? So,
And I know 93, we received a plan
93.
from the 80s.
but they didn't change this at all.
From the 80s.
No.
Okay,
That's
so this
before
would be
we-
our concern. That's what they're saying, and I think you said they just added that, so that's,
No, but they didn't.
They
This
didn't.
was
No,
an
that's what she said, they
existing part. The
didn't.
only thing they're adding is this thing.
right, so we really can't comment
The
on
only thing
this
they're adding is this little piece here, where these
on that
dots go,
side. Okay, they added this.
next to the
Okay.
house.
Yeah,
They've
Okay.
added, it's hard
that
to
wouldn't
say
make a difference to the lot
just
either.
a little bit, but
Yeah,
it
no,
wouldn't help
No,
the
it wouldn't.
crossing.
no.
And then they show this small buildable area down by the
Yeah,
road.
this is, here's the buildable.
Where are they showing buildable areas? Is
Right
that-
down by the road.
Down by the road, it's a very,
What on the plot indicates it's a buildable area?
it's,
Oh, the dotted lines, the
Dotted, there's a
dashes,
The,
the
little-
dots.
the
Got it.
long dash, two short dashes?
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Because reading this at home, there's no legend, how would
I know,
one
they
know
can't do
what
anything up here.
each?
Well, if that's the legend, then they also show on that lot 94, those also in the top right corner, and then in the
Yeah.
edge of the wetlands, also that same type of buildable lot area.
Yeah,
3 spots on that one.
I know, but
But, you
anyway,
know.
it's, again, it's
But
not, I think it's something that,
I don't know, we pass on comments, we're concerned, well, lots of wet, and I don't know, the future development, I'm not sure how to word it, but.
well, I would say we certainly, I mean, I don't think we'd want any of this, again, to come back and divide it up again. Like, what if somebody bought this lot and decided they were gonna, chop it up again? I mean, I think,
Yeah.
This one?
Yep.
It's all
oh, that
wet.
one, completely not.
Completely wet.
It's completely wet.
Yeah, 94 wouldn't, 94.1 could be, but that's.
The lot that map
Good.
Oh, that-
12, lot 28, that's where,
Lot 12.
To the
the Devan,
left of.
Phil
lot
Devanza
94,
lives. It's
on the
right
edge,
on the
right there, yeah.
corner of Hooksett Road. So, and this is recently, they built a house there, that's recently spun off. And these people did a brand-new front porch and everything. And there was a for sale sign out, and now it's gone.
We sold it.
Well, maybe not, maybe they decided to stay. They did a lot of work on it.
So as far as the lot
And all
line
the-
adjustment,
But
see, any other problems with it? They changed, did you put, we wouldn't.
well,
like
they
to-
lost some frontage. I think we still have 200-foot frontage for a viable lot, don't we?
Yes.
Here it says minimum frontage 200 on note 4.
Oh, I see what you're saying. They're losing frontage right here
Mhm.
on lot 94?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
how much
And
have
it
they?
looks like they only have 167, 85, 55, I gotta get out the better
Plus
glasses.
the 40.
Oh, yeah. So then they make
They-
200.
They're over 200.
207.
Not, lot 94
It's over two.
has 207.90.
They already figured that out.
They just make it.
Mhm.
Yes.
So we have any comments to put on for this, or just? I mean, it's actually just changing it from
Yeah,
boundaries to lot line,
I
right?
don't see any
Terminology.
comments to make. It was just trying to understand what the heck was happening.
Mm.
They're changing the language from boundaries to lot lines, correct?
Yes, the boundary agreement has already been recorded.
It's been recorded.
So now they're doing the same exact thing, calling it a lot line adjustment.
So it's already really been,
When was the boundary line recorded?
About a month ago, maybe.
It says December 13th, 2019, right under
Months ago.
reference plans, note 1. I know, there's all kinds of information on here, but it's really little.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
the truth.
finding it.
We're used to the,
yeah,
Yeah, I know.
so
I have a
she's
large
gonna,
one here if you.
no, that's
No,
okay.
that's
Okay,
At
then-
this point.
so
Then they're not,
you're not
if
changing,
they change the lot line on a boundary agreement,
They already changed the lot line, signed off on the boundary agreement, and recorded it. But the planning board wanted
planning
them
board is the
to-
one that's questioning them now. They don't want it to be a lot, to be a boundary line, they want it to be a lot line.
Correct.
And, huh?
That's what she's,
This way the town's
It's-
actually
it's-
signed off versus it
Signed
not.
off on something that's already legally happened.
it's already done.
That makes no sense.
To the lawyers it did.
Well, then it really doesn't make any sense. That's the problem right there.
So what we're agreeing to is just changing it from boundary to lot line, correct?
Saying the word,
Saying the words,
that's it.
I have no issues of concern.
okay? So we're just
Well,
changing the words.
just,
We're not changing anything on,
no, but I mean, the frontage on lot 94-4 just meets the requirement, and part of that,
speed it up.
that's the big one, here, this one,
994.
94,
Just
that
90,
that has 207
right.
0.9.
Yeah.
nine, yeah. And the wetlands comes right to the corner of it. Now, we don't know if that wetlands takes up the whole 40 feet as drawn or that, but all I would say is if
It goes over here.
94-4 is coming in for a subdivision, we're concerned about the wetlands. I mean, if it's coming in for a building,
Well,
I,
yes, if, for them to possibly get into that buildable area, they would have to come in for a variance, I
Right.
would think, for the wetland buffer.
What wetlands.
but I
buffers
think
that-
we should give the
Actually-
planning board a heads up to that.
No, wait a second. I think the rules are that if you have created a lot, that you cannot prevent a person from getting over. I mean,
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not,
Right, and that,
Okay.
this has already been created a long time ago.
right, but I get, David, what I'm
Yeah,
saying is,
right.
they may come in and they may show us how they're gonna cross that wetland, but we can't say, you know, there's too much disturbance, we don't want you to use that
Yes.
lot. If it's created, then
It's there.
that's it, you know. Then they have every right to
So-
get onto it. So that's why when we take a look at proposed
Right.
lots created, that's when we look, that's
Exactly.
our chance
And in
to,
this case, we're being told it's already a done deal.
I was-
This
Right.
is just
We're changing-
formality to make the lawyers happy, which is
Well-
like, huh?
We're
Yeah.
changing it, we're
That's it.
changing the words for the planning board, correct?
Well, also though, since they're changing
That.
the line here,
Mhm.
technically, I don't think that this lot would be grandfathered from,
So they'd have to come in.
they'd still have to come in if they wanna cross that wetland with
They'd have
their
to-
driveway.
They have to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so, do we know where we are at?
you mean this was the existing lot that went right over the guy's house practically? That's the existing line and they're changing it, they're moving it over here, making this frontage smaller, is that right?
Mhm.
To give the
Because it
house
probably
some
went-
setback.
Because it was probably one of these old deeds.
Right.
That was off by so many feet. And so
Oh.
when they had the surveyor come in, it probably put it right
Right,
on the edge.
Right.
Cause it,
okay,
okay,
that's,
we need a motion to change it from boundaries to
No,
lot
well,
lines.
that's, no, we're not doing
No,
any
you're
such
just
thing.
sending,
We'll
We're
just
just
send it-
sending comments on this, and
We'll just send it with,
we have
okay, we'll
no-
just send it on
no
with,
issues of concern, cause there's not really anything that we can address at this time.
okay, it's done. No issues of concern, and all those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay.
Did you have a second on that?
Oh, second. You did, right?
I'll second it, second it.
Move that one on. Okay, David, I think you have something for open space, and I think Evelyn, you have a meeting?
Oh,
Yeah,
I can wait now, cause
You can?
actually he took off,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, do you want
A lot
to
of
make
stuff
a
happening at
motion to go in?
well, first, just whatever we can discuss in public first,
Oh,
and then we'll go into closed
oh,
session.
okay. Two things.
Well, I just wanted to let the commission know that we did, you know, as we said we would, we had a, open space committee meeting last week. On the agenda, the things that we talked about is, field work that we hope to get done next year, this year, 2020. And when I say field work, so I'm saying this in terms of the Open Space Committee, but this really isn't just the Open Space Committee's work, it's the whole commission's work as well. I'm just
Or
trying
getting
to lead the
volunteer-
charge within the Open Space Committee, cause otherwise it's not gonna get done. So two things in terms of field work I'd like to try to get done in 2020. One is to complete field work for the Page Hill Marsh project, to get that parking area put in. We went out and I don't know if you all remember this, a long time ago, Sarah had drawn up 4 proposals, and we voted on the commission which one we liked and which one we would wanna build, and we picked this one that had the 3 spaces and the turnaround. There's a problem with all of these, which, you know, when we're sitting and looking at these plans, there's this funny little line running down through all of them. It's a drainage channel.
Oh.
We can't put the parking area over the drainage channel. And at the time this was drawn up, they were actually replacing the culvert under Page Hill Road, and that culvert goes into this channel, so, yeah. So we went out there, and we were trying to stake it out in December, and it was Stephen Grand George and sorry, I'm spacing out. One of our CC members.
Joey?
No, I do this all the time, sorry. Anyway, 3 of us, we looked at it and realized that can't be done, so we kinda staked out a somewhat different area, different from all these, but still honoring the concept of the 3 spots. Basically, we put the 3 spots on this side and kinda tapered it to avoid the drainage channel, so that shouldn't make any real difference, should be the same area.
When you say drainage channel, is it possible, I mean, if you have a heavy storm, is that going to overflow into your parking lot?
No, I don't think so, cause it's sloping down towards it.
Okay.
Try to stay back far enough away. And then, as we looked out into the marsh, you know, there's that arm of the wetland that comes up. And if you're gonna have a trail, you gotta get across that. Well, we had noticed every time we were out there that there was like the remains of a very low and broad stone wall. I mean, only rising like a foot or 2 above the wetland, completely covered, densely covered with brush. And so we went back on the second day and we cut it all off, and lo and behold, it's like a nice little causeway.
Oh,
Goes across the wet area,
oh,
and we only have to fill like a 6-foot gap and an 8-foot gap. We can just put some stepping stones in, and we have our access to the high and dry from the parking area, so that'll work out well. So I'm gonna try to get this going this spring as things thaw out, and try to get that parking area in. Parking area and a kiosk and a trail, so we can actually open something up to the public. And also associated with that, we need to get the boundary markers set, so that'll be another task out there. And, yeah, I'd like to see if, at least by the end of the summer, we can have an opening ceremony and
we don't have any.
not spend several years doing it like we did Blackbrook. And then the other thing I'd like to do is the Waldvogel tract up off Montalona Road. So up off Montalona Road, we have the Blackbriar and Brack Brook, which are right beside each other, which is now an open, beautiful place for the public to go. There's access to it off of the Class 6 road. And there's a parking area that PLC had carved out, kiosk, and the trail system is there and dedicated. And, you know, we had the dedication ceremony last October. People are starting to go to it and use it,
Oh,
but
good.
if you haven't been there, you should check it out. It's a very nice property.
I think the, where the, and they discovered kind of the marsh with the dam. I mean, I think there was some really nice, stuff along the trail there. Do you know what I'm talking about? No?
Well, there's the beaver pond,
Yes.
and
that-
there's there was some kind of mill structure
Yes.
there, as well as down on Black Brook itself where the dam is.
Which
Two
is
different-
interesting.
It's an interesting place, but it's
Yeah.
very scenic, very, very beautiful property. Well, directly across the road, ELC has the property that's the Preston tract. It's a very long, narrow rectangle, which goes right straight back to the Waldvogel tract, which the town owns, which we have.
Oh.
And now adjacent, at the eastern end of the Waldvogel tract, you have the former Martell property that Mr.
Oh.
Martell left to the Forest Society in his will. And there was a long drawn-out saga for that, but that's all been cleared up now. That's Forest Society's property, free and clear. And that side of the road is really beautiful too. It's completely different habitat, completely different topography. You go back through kind of rolling hills and you get into this ridge line. There's a big geological fault that runs across the northern part of town. And along that fault is an outcropping where the one side of the fault had slipped up who knows how many years ago, probably millions of years ago. And there's a quartzite
Oh, wow.
deposit that outcrops at various places, but two places where it forms very high cliffs. One's the Rattlesnake Hill that most people in town are familiar with, but the second one is here inside the Waldvogel property. It's absolutely gorgeous, big, straight, sheer quartzite cliff.
Wow.
The view on top is spectacular, like it is at Rattlesnake. We were out there this past weekend. I went out with the Grand Georges, and we were checking it out and discovered there's a raven's nest on that one.
Oh,
That's the first
wow.
raven's nest I've ever seen in Goffstown.
Oh, wow.
So what I'd like to do is, and there the boundary is even fuzzier. That land was given to the town, and it's all very old deeds, you know, with describing boundary lines like start at the old oak tree and go northerly so many rods, and nightmare. But we need to figure that out and figure out where our boundaries are. And then I'd like to try to work with both PLC and the Forest Society to get another trail network in on that side of the road that, you know, can go to those spots. And we're really gonna have a really nice destination out there with trails going in the two different directions.
So, to find those trails, is that something where you'd have a map that maybe would be on the web page?
Should be on the Goffstown Conservation Commission's webpage. You wanna add that to the list of 1,000 things we haven't done? Absolutely. That's why I'm trying to
that
get
was-
some of these things done.
What about this, this fellow that was all excited about, you know, I'm just saying, but, because actually, and it is interesting, on our side of town, the trails are getting used a lot. I
Well,
mean,
that was the whole point of this meeting, was to try to get ourselves organized and start picking some stuff up.
yeah.
We're not gonna get everything done. If we get everything done in that agenda, I'll be happy.
I was
but
gonna
I'm
say,
not-
you have a lot on the agenda.
Not about to add to it.
Wow.
So then the other thing that we talked about in previous meetings was how important it is we need to start doing proper stewardship of the conservation lands that we have in town. We have never really done it. And that is actually a legal requirement of conservation commissions to do that when they have property. We need to step up our game. Well, actually, the requirements are, in the RSA is pretty lame. It says keep an index. All right, so we have an index, no big deal. But that's not good enough. I mean, we really need to do the stewardship to be able to properly protect these things. And last time I looked into doing a grant from the town, which ultimately we couldn't do because of timing, but with LCHIP, if you recall, we had to vote on a form saying that we would do our best to abide by the guidelines of the Land Trust Alliance. And that's the kind of thing that we're gonna have to do going forward to get grant money. So there's another reason why we should be doing it, if there weren't enough reasons already.
Did we ever get the computer
Tablet, yeah,
tablet?
I've been using that.
Is it-
Yeah, we had money left over at the end of 2018. and
Right, yeah.
purchased that one. And that'll be very helpful with this stuff, finding the boundaries. But the stewardship, I was hoping that was gonna take off. We had a new volunteer about a year ago that was gonna lead that effort, and that hasn't happened, so we got to try to make it happen on our own. And I think, Charlie's gonna be a real asset with this, so we're digging in. I have found, working off this list, and it's expanded with more information now. I started looking into old deeds, and for a lot of these things, turns out we actually have more than half of the paper copies of the deeds. So we're gonna try to get the rest of them.
They're not,
Yeah, they're here.
you have them
physically
I
purchase
physically have copies of them.
copies? Wow.
We're gonna have to put together a conservation plan. We're gonna have to figure out a way to make this accessible to everybody in the committee and to town administration. Just bringing it and putting it in a file cabinet here in town hall isn't gonna cut it, cause then we don't have access to it.
Right.
Having it on our own doesn't cut it, cause then the town doesn't have access to it. Ultimately, we need to get to an electronic system that all parties that need to have access can log into. We're not there yet. Right now, we're just working on getting all the information and getting it all solid and having everything that we need. For some of these deeds that we don't have, you know, that we could get them online from the registry of deeds, and that actually is a question I have for you. I mean, I'm sure the town has accounts for that. Is that, do we get charged for each individual copy, or does the account cover?
So they changed the rules lately or recently, so they charge us $2 a copy. But there's some legislation that's making its way through. I don't know what will happen with it, but they're trying to get the towns to at least be able to print this without a charge, because after all, they're using their own printer and paper
Paper.
and ink, but
Right.
yet they're
That's
charging
true.
us for the access to it. We're already paying for the access, so
Right.
Yeah.
so Scott was testifying in Concord recently on that, and I don't know where that bill is at right now, but currently we are charged $2 a page.
A page.
Page, not,
Which is really ridiculous.
yeah.
Maybe we should just wait. The last thing I wanna do is wait, cause this is going on forever, but wait a little bit longer if there's a chance that
I
that'll
can
change.
check with Scott and let you know.
And,
So,
because if that's the case, what the question I had, I had assumed that the town would have either, if not free access, discounted access of some kind. And there used to be, when you just logged in as someone off the street, there used to be 2 systems for accessing. Now there's 3. And one of the original 2 is gone. It was pretty lame, but it did usually work. And you could see a copy, and although you'd be charged if you tried to print it, you could just
You do a
Screen
print
snap.
screen. Yeah, that's what I used to do all the time. Then they wised up and now you can't do that.
Yeah, they took that away.
But yeah, they just changed the whole system. It's an all new software, and so now they wanna recoup
Well,
money.
and all counties' registries of deeds are profit centers,
And they're all run differently. It's not consistent.
right?
Yeah, so there's 3 web apps that they mention on their site now, and it's still the most tremendous web pages for their site. But
Yeah.
there's one called Tapestry, there's one called
Laredo, I think.
yeah. Which one does the town actually use?
The town has both. One of them, you could go on there and look for free, which is the one you don't need training for. The other one, I can't remember which is which. The other one, you actually have to sit through a seminar and learn all about it, and I have not had the time to do that, so whenever I need something printed, I just ask assessing. But, they gave us a grace period, maybe from the fall until the end of January for no charges, and now there's charges on there. We have, no control over it at this point.
Gotcha. So what would you recommend that
We-
aside from wait to see if the charge goes away? Because we'd like to be able
Well,
to.
you do have some control. Speak up at the delegation meeting.
Well,
And they're coming in for, this is the time of year to do it.
yeah, because it's the county.
It's time to do the budget.
Someone put through a bill to try and get them to stop charging towns. And like I said, I don't know where that's at, but I can check with Scott.
Yeah, but I mean, that's
Do
one
both,
venue.
yeah.
The other venue
I'll
is
ask
going
them.
in to get all the towns in Hillsborough County to say, don't charge us.
Right.
And that's easier to do, and they have the numbers of how much each town puts in and how much money is raised from the Hillsborough County towns. So therefore, if it's not much, you can make the argument, well, $35 is not gonna break you guys. And I would definitely go to, the delegation meetings this spring when they're setting the budget and everything.
Do you have any idea how many, like, say for this year, how many you would be printing?
I can,
With around 14?
when we finish the meeting, I can add them
Okay.
all up, but, I mean, there's some that are higher priority than others. So we have properties in different categories. And for properties that are land owned by, you know, PLC and Spinoff, we don't have all the copies of that, but that's not a priority because they're in charge
Right.
of the stewardship. I mean, we just got a stewardship report on 2 of them here. We don't have the original copy of the deed right now. I'd like it eventually, because you read them, the devil's in the details, and if there's things that we should know about and we see an infraction, we could call the land trust because we know about it, but we don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, that's a problem.
The assessing records, the actual paper copies, I believe that they also have a copy of the deeds in those records, so potentially someone could pull them out and make copies of them.
You have them upstairs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're part of the assessing files.
Well, I guess what I wanted to ask was what's the best way to go about it from 2 perspectives. One is, we don't wanna add cost to the town, if we can avoid it. And the second is, we don't wanna add burden to your office if we can avoid it.
Yeah, there's no way to get around either one of those though, really.
But we really do
Unless
need-
someone came up and
So our,
volunteered to,
so our
pull the
game
files. I don't know if
plan
they
here is
let you do that.
to
Nobody
continue
let us do that,
gathering
would
the
they?
data so that
We're gonna do.
we have all the data and the data is complete. Then we wanna write up a plan, a stewardship plan for how this should be done. We write that up, get it drafted, get comments from planning, get comments from the select board, make it official. And
Are there other stewardship plans?
there's tons of information to draw on, yeah. I mean, basically, the idea is to follow the LTA guidelines as much as possible. I mean, there's certain things in the LTA guidelines that are specific to land trusts.
Right.
But in terms of
So
monitoring.
you could do a cut and paste kind of,
Yeah, coming up with the plan is not the challenge. That's one of the easier parts of this. The harder part will be probably coming to some sort of agreement on an electronic storage system that we can all agree
well,
upon.
that's,
I know, it should be trivial, but fast.
no, but that's a whole other thing. You know how much difficulty we've had with electronic systems with the town of Goffstown.
Today, it's in the year 2020, this should not be an issue at all because there are so many inexpensive cloud services that will handle this infinitely better than anything the town could ever do on its own for really, really cheap values. And I'm talking about stuff like Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure and things like that. I mean, it's dirt cheap, incredibly powerful, incredibly secure.
Have we budgeted for it?
Well, when we would find out how much we need to store, and that's, the devil's in the details, so we're not ready to sort all that out yet. First is gather all the information and figure out what we need based on that. So step 1 is we're in the information gathering stage.
Okay, that's, all right. But you're talking the stewardship plan. So we should have that while we're gathering the information.
Well, we'll write that. We'll come up with the plan, but the plan will specifically spell out the storage, among other things. So it's all tied together.
So, if I could suggest, I'll talk to Scott and Derek tomorrow, but if you could provide us with the map and lot numbers for the ones you wanna get started with.
You have them right there, don't you, David?
Hmm?
You have them right there?
Yeah.
I thought so.
We could at least send you some, just begin.
So this is the full list of stuff that we're looking at, and, I can explain this in detail when we're done.
Okay.
So anyway, there's a lot to be done with the whole
Sounds like
stewardship thing. We're just in the initial stages of it.
Yeah, but I really think that we ought to take it in small increments,
That's,
like come up with the plan.
that's what I've done. I've spelled out small increments. Step number
It's
one
there.
is gathering all
Okay,
the deeds and the
all right,
natural
so,
property information.
all right.
This will be going on all year. So I'm violently agreeing with you.
Okay, but, all right. Then, we ought to have this completed by September, so we know what we want to put in the budget for storage.
Yeah.
So a goal on those incremental things is come up with a budget for September. Because that's something new, and then we have to justify it. So if we have all the deeds and all the information ready to go for September, we can,
Well, there's more than deeds. There's
I'm using that,
how we're gonna store monitoring reports, the whole
yeah.
thing.
But if that is all done by September, we can go to the ZBA, no, not the,
Planning-
I- I-
budget
I-
committee.
the budget
I fully
committee.
agree with you. If it's all done by September,
Right.
we're
I
at
mean,
that
that's our
point, we can
goal.
put it in the budget. If we don't meet that goal, then it might get pushed a
For the
year
next
out.
September.
And my experience at trying to get people working on this stuff, I'd be amazed if we're done by September, but we're gonna make some progress.
Okay,
So you already have the book and page numbers?
Yeah, most of
Okay,
them.
so that makes
There's
it
a
a lot
couple missing
easier.
ones. And then the other thing that we need to be doing is we need to update the open space conservation plan. Because right now, the planning board has, they farmed out rewriting the master plan to Southern New Hampshire Planning. But the open space conservation plan is ours, and we need to update that, and again, it'll be an addendum to the master plan. So that's kind of a high priority item too, because that's already in progress, so we need to get caught up with that. That might prevent us from,
Is that something, I know it's gonna be coming out of the, out of your committee, the Open Space Committee.
it's really this committee's
But
job.
this
That's what I was
committee should be
thinking, but
doing
it
it.
really should be.
Should be from this committee.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
right now, I've just started reading through it, and as a Word document, and I'm using the comment feature on Word, which I hope everybody's familiar with. And I'll start putting in my comments, and then I'm gonna send that copy to everyone
Okay.
on this committee and open space, and ask you to please review it and make any comments of your own. But I can tell you right now,
But it should come then to.
you can kind of divide the thing into two halves. And the first half is, why do we have an open space committee? What's the point of it, and why are we doing it? What's the justification for that? That's not really gonna change much. The reasons haven't changed. The language and the layout and the presentation is pretty awful, so it's gonna be more, cleaning that up. So that'll be the easier part. The second half is really kind of a natural resource inventory approach. And that part is just really awful, because we didn't have access to good tools at the time. So that's gonna be completely redone. There's gonna be all new maps. There's gonna be all new data, and I wanna do more than, the typical natural resource inventory that you see for every town in the state. They all follow the same cookie cutter. They say, go to Granite, download these layers, throw it together, bam, bam, you have an NRI, which is absolutely worthless. And I think we can do better. I think we can actually take those base layers as a start, but then actually talk a little bit about what is unique in Goffstown. I mean, you know, I was describing that fault line that goes through that. That's an example. We talk about it because that has a huge impact on areas that we want to protect, and get some details and fleshed out and do it right is the goal that I want to do. So that'll be a little bit harder work, and that's one of the things that there's the big thing that limited in the past was software, GIS software. So you know, most people use the standard. Most institutions, they use ArcGIS, which is obscenely overpriced, always has been. We're not going to spend thousands of dollars for copies of ArcGIS, and yeah, the town has it. Doesn't do us any good working on the committee. I had bought an inexpensive one that I used, which, you know, not the greatest thing in the world. It makes me make these ugly maps that probably nobody likes, but at least they've helped us get grants.
Very good.
And in the meantime, there's an open source application called QGIS, which has been around for a number of years, and it used to really stink, and now it's really awesome. It's gotten really, really good. Completely free.
Oh, wow.
So I just installed that a month or so ago. Very impressed with it. I sent it around to the other OSC members. Charlie, our new member, has already downloaded, learning to use it.
Yeah, you sent it.
Have some help there on the maps.
Well, he's gonna be a real keeper, right?
So yeah, that's also a big task, and probably be spending a little bit more time on that than on the stewardship initially, because I don't know, do you know when you're gonna get your draft back from?
It's taken forever. They're working on the chapters now. We met with him about a month ago. He had a few preliminary drafts done,
Yeah.
and I haven't seen anything since. So they're supposed to be all wrapped up by June. And it's already almost March.
Okay, well, in our case, that's good for us, because we have enough time to get our plan wrapped up. So sorry that all this took a lot more talking than I had thought it would, and I want to go into non-public session to give you a very brief, I promise, update on a project.
But I have to say, I think it was great that you went ahead and told us all of this stuff and see the huge project. But this is really important, David. I mean, these are real treasures for our town, and I think making sure that it's all.
Going to have a motion to go into non-public, and we would come out. We will not be coming back into public. David, you want to make the motion for non?
Yeah, I'm just looking for the proper language. I make a motion that we go into a non-public session in accordance with RSA 91-A:3II for discussions of real estate.
Roll call. All those in
David
favor?
Neiman, aye.
Jean Walker, aye.
Evelyn Miller, aye.
Amy Polak, aye.
Karen McRae, aye.
Okay, so we're gonna go into non-public, and this will be the end of the public meeting.